Welcome into the television version of Strategies for Living. I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. I'm delighted that you've tuned in, joined with me today here on Strategies. Of course, we're all about helping us live healthier, happier, and more peaceful lives in our bodies, in our minds, in our spirits, in our relationships. We do that by talking to life strategists. Each and every time we do Strategies for Living, our life strategist today, Jill French, says she's going to help us with all of that: body, mind, spirit, and relationship. You can do all of that in 30 minutes?
I don't know if I could do it in 30 minutes, but you're on the right track, saying that it's,
the
mind,
reason
body,
Jill
and
can do all of this is because she is a yoga instructor. And I got to tell you, Jill, you're going to have to teach me. Take me by the hand and lead me. I've wanted to know a lot more about yoga for a long time, and it's got to be true confessions. Okay. I grew up watching Yogi Bear, but that's about as close as I've come so far, I think, to yoga. But I keep hearing such positive things about yoga. So let's start with the basics. What is it? What is yoga? And why are we hearing more and more about it now?
Okay. Well, yoga it started about 3,000 years ago over in India. Now, it started where these men in India wanted to set up their bodies in order to be able to sit down and meditate for hours.
Okay.
So in order for them to prepare to sit for these long hours, they wanted to do a certain type of exercise. And it was to focus their minds. So yoga eventually came over to the West, and because of course we had all these fitness crazes and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
But then there was just this craving where people wanted to get more in connection of themselves, of their bodies, their minds and their spirits all together. So one-on-one, I guess I would say, I don't know, yoga generated because I think it got so popular because people, again, had that craving that they wanted to have that sense of calm or peace.
And that's, I think in the last couple of decades especially, we're looking, not that we haven't always been searching for calm and for peace, but as our world grows more and more away from peace and calm,
right.
we need to bring that inside.
Correct.
More and more. Now, is yoga something that I've also heard, and I'm not sure I'm right about this, but I've also heard that yoga can be very intense on one end. You mentioned exercise.
Correct.
I've heard that yoga can be very intense, but it can also be very gentle.
Correct.
And that, in fact, we'll talk about, I have a client that has really been helped with yoga, and it's very gentle. Low impact. I'm not sure that that's a term I should use or not.
No, low impact is a good term to use.
But so there's a wide variety of what you can do in yoga,
absolutely.
right?
So I feel like when yoga came over to the West, people were wanting to do it for the physical aspect, for to do the whole workout, get the workout.
Right. And that's really not the whole of what yoga is intended for,
That's really not what
right?
yoga is about.
It really is about mind and body.
Right.
Okay.
Because yoga, what yoga actually means is to yoke, to bring together. So it is to bring the mind, the body together.
And could we say the mind, the body, and the spirit together?
Right.
Yeah.
So when it came to the West, I think we did do a form of taking yoga from the East and wanting to make it high impact, since you were saying low impact,
right.
High impact. So we have hot yoga and we have like power yoga and all this sort of stuff. But then again, you do have the low impact where it's more of a restorative, or there are some traditions that came over here like Iyengar yoga or Ashtanga yoga. I practice Ashtanga yoga. Ashtanga, which is from Patabi Jois, that came from Mysore, India. And which is funny because people like to laugh hearing that it's from Mysore because they think of, being sore, Mysore. So it's a tradition where you have the same set of sequence of yoga poses that you do every single time you practice. So it's very much of a ritual, which that's kind of what drew me to it. Was I always knew when I got on my mat exactly what I was going to do.
Okay.
For me, growing up with anxiety, it was one of those things where I liked the ritual of it because it brought ease to me to know that that chaos that I had in my mind, I could come back and do the same routine over and over and be able to breathe through it and everything.
Okay, so now you just mentioned breathing, the breath.
Yes,
is an
so
important part
Oh,
of yoga.
absolutely.
It's not just the poses, and of
No.
course I don't know what I'm doing.
It's okay, we mostly don't, all of us don't know what we're doing.
But it's also about being very aware and conscious of my breathing.
Of your breathing, yes. So the breath, we tease sometimes as teachers and we say, you can just sit on your mat and breathe and the whole time you're doing yoga. So the breath is such the connection of being able to our nervous system to slowly bring our nerves down. Again, that allows our mind to ease. So then therefore it allows us to connect with ourselves. So the breath is the ultimate most important thing when it comes to yoga. Whereas people think they have to do all these poses and they have to be really pretty and they have to be, that's really just a tool of yoga. It's not what yoga is, doing all these poses.
So I come to you, and by the way, you can find Jill French online. Yoga foundationswithjill.com is where you can go.
It's my blog I started.
And find Jill's blog and catch up with her. Continue the conversation we're starting with her today. yogafoundationswithjill.com. So I come to Jill French and I say, Jill, I've heard so many great things about yoga, and now you've told me what it is, and you've convinced me. You've sold me. I want to get started.
All right.
Where do we start? What are you going to do first with me?
Well, let's say if I was going to do a private one-on-one yoga class with you or with someone, I would ask them, about their bodies, what they feel physically that they can do, what they think mentally what they can do, where are they currently mentally. I don't know. I mean, I think you would start at really wanting to build a relationship and connect with that student, and then be able to create a sequence or create a class that would be most beneficial.
Beneficial for that person. Now, is some yoga's done individually, one-on-one, but a lot of yoga, especially yoga in our community, is done in classes.
In classes at studios.
Is one way more effective than another way, or are both good?
I think both are good. I find that a lot of people are very intimidated to go to a class, especially if they haven't done yoga before. And
so maybe you want to begin with someone like
and maybe you do.
one-on-one.
Maybe you do. And sometimes that helps to build the confidence to go into a class. But then sometimes I feel like everybody is so focused on their own yoga practice that they're really not focusing on you. Like I try to tell students, I'm too scared to go to a class. And I'm like, really, everybody's so focused on what do I look like and what is my breath and that nobody else is paying attention to anybody else. So I'm like, you're safe in that classroom.
You're safe in that classroom.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Your teacher
You're
is there as a
probably more anonymous
guide.
there than you are anyplace else,
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're one-on-one, well, then your teacher is very much zoned in on you. Well, if you're in a class, you're there, you're getting the full experience, and then the teacher is there to guide you. So it's just really kind of what you would prefer. Now, I find that being drawn to wanting to help beginners with yoga, I feel that sometimes, let me come show you what it's all about. Or I'll email them, videos, or if they have any questions. Or I'm like, come on, I'll go to a class with you. So I've had a couple of friends where I'm like, come on,
So you can do a
I'll just
group
go
setting,
with
but
you.
then kind of be one-on-one with that person and
Right.
whisper, okay, do this, do
Yeah.
that, or
Yeah.
relax or whatever. What's the main benefit? Again, exercise, certainly. Who of us
Right.
can't use that? But beyond the obvious exercise, we're also exercising the mind.
Correct.
Is one more important than the other, or are they equally important in yoga?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say they're equally important. because again,
They're equally connected, aren't they?
they're equally connected, but it's also about finding that balance between both of them as well. So I don't know, that's a good question, but I would think that they're equal. They're definitely equal.
You know, most people think of a feeling when a lot of times I will ask in my office, what's a feeling? And it's a rather confounding question when you stop and think about it, because we're all so close to our feelings. We don't really, you know, what a feeling is anger, or a feeling is fear. And I'll quickly say, well, no, those really aren't feelings. Those are thoughts. Those are thoughts that
Correct.
label feelings.
That's exactly
So you know, it's kind of confounding, but what it really gets down to, without going into a big diatribe right now, is basically feelings are physical sensations.
correct.
All feelings are basically physical sensations, and right brain, left brain, we attach almost in a millisecond some label. So fear would be attached to that feeling that I'm, you know, that I'm getting, or I'm getting red in the face, and I attach embarrassed to that. But what a feeling truly is a physical sensation. So, and again, we have so connected those that we can't then pull them apart,
Correct.
the
Yeah.
bodily sensation from the label.
The thought.
Yoga, in a sense, sounds like it helps to pull that apart. Am I kind of right on that?
That's correct. So in yoga, part of the tool of doing all the poses is to give ourselves something to concentrate on. Because the very first Yoga Sutra it states, which I cannot say it in Sanskrit, so I'm not going to say it for you, but it means stopping the fluctuations of the mind. So we have these thoughts constantly. I mean, I tease my students when we're like, or if we're going to touch our toes, I'm like, I know you think you need a pedicure, and I know that's what's going on in your head, but you need to label that as a thought and come back to your breath.
Come back to the breath.
So, in yoga, the poses are partly the tool to help with the mind, to focus the mind, so that if we start to get lost in thought, we have the physical movement of our body, but then to come back to, but then also come back to the breath. So because a lot of yoga, you are moving the body and breathing at the same time. So you're trying to bring those two together so that you're actually able to focus the mind.
And so it's really a brain exercise. And I got to take a break here, but we'll come back, because really what I'm hearing you say is that balance, and with the mind, the body, you're actually retraining your brain in yoga. So we'll come back to that. And you also mentioned a word. We'll come back and talk about sutras.
Yes.
In just a moment. Okay. Jill French, yoga instructor extraordinaire, yogafoundationswithjill.com. We are talking to her today and learning from her as our life strategist here on Strategies for Living. Stay with us. We'll be right back to learn more.
Are you already a welder and want to advance your skills? Interested in having a higher salary potential and stronger employment demand? At Bossier Parish Community College, you can acquire the skills in one semester to become an AWS certified welding inspector. Our first of its kind advanced welding program at Bossier Parish Community College includes courses in new welding technology, management, supervision, and the economics of welding. Become workforce ready for today's high demand, high income advanced welding jobs. To learn more, call us at 318-678-6000.
Doing the laundry doesn't have to clean out your wallet due to energy charges. To help, the experts at the U.S. Department of Energy offer a few hints on saving time, trouble, money, and energy. For one thing, when replacing appliances or purchasing electronics, look for the Energy Star label. It means the washer and dryer and iron you get are made with advanced technologies that use 10 to 15% less energy and water than standard models. In fact, an Energy Star clothes washer consumes about 40% less energy than conventional clothes washers while reducing water bills. These washers also save you money because they need less detergent and are gentler on clothes. Next, plug that iron into an electronic power strip. Like many electronic devices, it can become an energy vampire and continue to consume energy even when not in use. Simply turn the power strip off when you're not ironing to avoid becoming its victim. For more energy-saving tips, go to energy.gov.
Have an interest in robotics and learning how things work? Do you enjoy working with your hands or working with machines? At Bossier Parish Community College, you can prepare for the new breed of industrial careers, combining the fields of mechanical, electrical, and programmed automation. By acquiring the skills at Bossier Parish Community College, you'll earn an associate's degree in advanced manufacturing and mechatronics, and become workforce ready for today's high-demand, high-income manufacturing jobs. To learn more, call us at 318-678-6000.
And welcome back into the television version of Strategies for Living. I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. Obviously, you are watching Jill and I today, but you know, we started on the radio 25 years, can you believe that, 25 years ago? Do I look that old?
No.
Thank you, Jill. We're on News Radio 710 Keel, Sunday mornings, 9:05 to 10, and you can tune in and join us. You could also go to strategiesforliving.com or healthylife.net on Thursdays from Los Angeles. You can listen to us at all of those venues, and I hope you do. Today, Jill French, yoga instructor, yogafoundationswithjill.com. If people are interested in more information about private lessons or group lessons, contact you at yogafoundationswithjill.com. There's a contact page there.
Yep.
And
they can email
easy.
me. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is this an expensive? I mean, I'm not asking you to name prices, but is it gonna break the bank if I get individual instructions?
No,
Because
it shouldn't
sounds to me like this is something for today. The mind, the body. Yoga's got everything.
Well, and I feel that yoga is a therapy. I do.
No, it is a therapy. It definitely
and
is.
so, no, I don't think it should break the bank. Now, yoga pants have broken my bank. Let me just tell you that.
Okay.
Because they're so expensive, but
Yeah.
they're so cool.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's broken the bank. But no, yoga shouldn't.
Yoga shouldn't do that.
No,
Okay,
it
so if I keep
So-
down if I keep my yoga pant wardrobe under control,
You should be
I'm good
fine.
to go.
You should be
Okay.
fine.
So
Absolutely.
you were mentioning in the last segment, Jill, you brought up the term sutra. I've heard that term before. So
Yoga sutras are kind of like a rule book. Well, I don't really want to say rule book,
Guidebook.
but a guidebook
Guide, yeah.
where Patanjali, who's over in India, came up with these yoga sutras to help guide somebody who's practicing yoga. Because again, it's more than just poses. You know, so it's a whole study. Some of them even reminded me of the 10 Commandments, which I thought was really interesting when I was doing when I was doing my instructor training. So it's really more of, I guess a yogi would say it's like the Yogi Bible, which I guess sounds kind of strange, but that's kind of what it is. Just like little things like to live, well, not live by, well, I guess, yeah, to live by, but also to help guide you through your practice.
yeah.
More than just, and it's not like a book you open it up and you see all these poses. No. It's more of, the Zen-like, sayings of different ways, different perspectives to live your life. So again, because I always try to tell people, yoga is so much more than just being on a mat and doing poses. So.
the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Correct. I mean, you have to have all those parts in order to make it.
They're
whole,
all important. So
right?
being on the mat,
So-
the poses, the breath,
Breathing.
the meditative part,
Correct.
all of those things, but there's a synergy. Synergy meaning the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. It sounds like I really gain from that whole experience.
And trying to get to that whole experience, because none of us are perfect. And every single day, your practice changes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's days where I go on my mat. I recently blogged about this, that I started this ritual, my own personal ritual, that I step on my mat and I do my practice. Before I start my practice, I actually start standing on my mat in a prayer, thinking of everything at that moment, everything that is overwhelming me. And from there, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start my practice. I start my practice, I get through my practice. Sometimes I cry on my mat, sometimes I don't. And then at the end of my practice, my ritual is that I pick up my mat and I shake my mat out. So anything that I do,
getting rid
I'm
of
like,
anything-
so anything that I brought to that mat that I thought about set an intention before my practice, cried, got mad, lost the track of my breath. And then I get up and I shake my mat out, and then I roll it back up and put it back into
What
my
a
bag.
powerful ritual.
Right? Because it was just kind of, but I feel that anybody could do that with anything, really,
sure.
if you think about it.
But yoga's also, and that sounds to me, Jill, yoga's also about a platform for discipline. Discipline not in the sense of punishment,
No.
but discipline in the sense of learning to delay gratification, accept responsibility, be honest with yourself, and balance.
Correct. I feel like it's always a practice, and you have to have that dedication of that practice. Patobi Joyce, one of his famous quotes that all the Ashtanga yoga people go to is he's always like, yoga is 99% practice, 1% theory. Because it's such a personal thing. It's such your personal everybody's body is made different. Our minds are different. We all have our inner battles that we fight. We all have these different things. So everybody's practice is different. So it's really about taking what you will from the practice and your perspective and being able to dedicate time to wanting to do that.
We talked in the last segment about retraining the brain. So I've got a client who he found yoga about 3 months ago. But he suffers with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Which yoga is so good for
And
that.
so the symptoms, and of course the psychotherapy, and the unfortunately he tried some psychotropic medicines, but none of that worked for him.
Right.
And so literally, I've noticed since he's been going to yoga, his brain seems to be rewiring,
Right. Shifting.
shifting. Yeah.
Shifting.
And
within
you
the
do that enough, and again, you change your brain, you change everything. And so he's literally, I can see him from session to session. He leaves our session and he goes immediately into yoga. He drives, he has to drive a little bit to
awesome.
get there,
That's
but
great.
he's managed to be able to
getting
leave our
back-to-back
session
therapy.
and go back to back, which I think has been a very, very powerful thing.
And I feel the mind, sometimes we forget how powerful the mind is. I mean, if you think of a person who is suffering from chronic pain, which some people with PTSD are, I mean, their body, they become frail. I mean, our bodies start to shut down.
Right.
And this is all because of our mind. So when you're saying he's being rewired, it's just interesting because it's not really necessarily rewiring, but he's connecting more with himself,
right.
And he's connecting
He's
more with
making
his breath.
more synapse connections.
So now he's more aware of his body and taking care of his body more. So I feel that it's, again, that tool or that yoga therapy that's actually helping him to be able to heal himself.
Interesting. This guy could not get out of bed. His alarm would go off, and he'd tell me, he would pull the cover back over his head and just stay in bed until the last possible minute. Since he's been doing his yoga, he is now getting up and he's immediately going out, and first thing in the morning his ritual is to walk. He
Okay.
couldn't do that a
Before.
couple of months ago.
Wow.
So
that's
yoga has
awesome.
done that for him.
And I love hearing stories like that because I feel like we all have certain things, whether we're suffering from anxiety, depression, PTSD.
Okay, let's talk a
or-
little bit about that. Well, because you certainly, I know anxiety can be helped with yoga.
Correct.
You mentioned chronic pain. How does yoga help? Because so many people are going to chronic pain doctors. Unfortunately, once you get on that heavy medication,
Right.
your body needs more and more.
Right.
And a lot of people find at some point in that process, I want to get off this merry-go-round. So yoga is one way that can help chronic pain?
I think so, absolutely. Again, if you're in pain, of course, nobody's never going to say you're really not in pain.
No, yeah.
And it's hard, and I've had neck pain, nerve pain, and I've had, it's hard for doctors to find that. You know, they have to believe you that you're in pain.
Right.
And then when you're in pain, it gets your nervous system just, you know,
Yeah.
you're just completely tense, you're completely tightened up. And then the mind starts to go.
Right.
And you're just thinking how awful, you know, you start to do this, oh, I'm awful, oh, I'm hurting. And so I feel that with yoga, there are certain poses. Of course, if you're in chronic pain, it's, you know, the lower back or anything like that. Of course, there's poses that can help you with that. But again, I will always go back to the breath and the mind, where I feel that the nervous system, getting the control of the breath, and being able to slow down the nervous system. is really
All very helpful. You know what, Jill, this is the complaint that I've got about this program today is we need about 3 hours here. And we're just about at the end of time, so what I'm going to have to do is ask our viewers to continue the conversation with you
Perfect.
by going to yogafoundationswithjill.com. Regular blog that
Yep.
you do there.
Regular
and
blog.
then you can, if you'd like to join Jill for her group classes, which she does Wednesday evenings and Saturday mornings at Explore Yoga, you can find out more information about that. yogafoundationswithjill.com. Great job.
Thanks.
Folks, tune in to Strategies for Living on the radio. Don't forget us Sunday mornings, 710 Keel, where we've been for over 25 years now. 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Thursdays, healthylife.net and strategiesforliving.com. Jill French, thank you for being a
Thank
wonderful
you for having me.
life
I
strategist.
enjoyed
And you're
it.
going to have to come back and do more.
Okay, sounds good.
I now know that there's more to yogi than the bear.
Yes.
For Jill French, I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. See you next time on Strategies for Living.